Welcome from downtown Gilroy in the new CMAP studios. This is Going Green TV, and this show is sponsored by the San Benito County Chamber of Commerce. And our message is economic vitality along with environmental sustainability for future generations. And on our set today, along with my co-host, Shawn Novack, we have a distinguished research scientist and educator, Joe Jordan. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Hey,
welcome, Joe.
Great to see you.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. And Joe, not only we're going to talk about climate change, and Joe, he not only walks the walk and talks the talk, but he drives an electric car. He drove your electric car over the Santa Cruz Mountains today to come to our studios, right, Joe?
Largely solar-powered electric car, because I plug it into my house, and my house has solar all over it. So, and no gasoline at all. And by the way, no smog check, no tune-up, no oil change. So lots of virtues to electric cars.
Let me give you a little background about Joe here. As I said, he's a research scientist. He worked for NASA, Ames, and Mountain View for decades, as well as CETA, which is SETI, excuse me, which stands for the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence Institute, right? Mm-hmm. You study problems of stratospheric ozone depletion and tropospheric climate change. You're on the board of directors for Ecology of Action in Santa Cruz.
Ecology Action, yeah.
You initiated large installations of PV systems on several Santa Cruz city schools for the first time in that town.
And PV, for our viewers, means photovoltaics, solar electric, like light to electricity, photovoltaic. So.
And you're a teacher of renewable energy. You've taught meteorology, climate science, mathematics, and environmental studies at Cabrillo College, Gavilan College, San Jose State University, and Monterey Institute of International Studies. And I know when we had our Green Business Committee meeting, we saw Joe's TED Talk, which you can just on YouTube, you just punch in Joe Jordan TED Talk.
Yeah, or just into any web search engine, you know, Google or DuckDuckGo, just type in the 4 magic words, Joe Jordan TED Talk.
Right, and it's called Solar Window of Opportunity. It's worth checking out, believe me. It's something else, right?
Well, it starts with a heavy cliffhanger of a question. Are we going to make it as a species on the Earth for much longer? And, you know, I don't really know, but if there is a way out, that talk outlines it, and it's in a fun and even funny and engaging way with lots of pictures of the sky, because I'm an astronomy guy, and the sky is going to be our salvation. That's where a lot of this renewable energy, most of this renewable energy comes from the sky, like our hero, Mr. Sun.
Yeah.
So.
Let me go back, and my preface is in 1995, the International Panel of Climate Change stated that the balance of evidence suggests that there is discernible human influence on global climate. And you know, despite the fact that the IPCC is a multinational, multidisciplinary compilation of climate change science reviewed by over 500 scientists from over 40 countries, the consensus is not universal, as a few climate scientists have raised a voice of opposition, and the business community, policymakers, and general public have been receiving conflicting messages. What would you say about that, Joe?
Well,
the uncertainty?
They keep updating the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC reports. And every time it gets stronger and stronger that the human role in climate change is worse and worse and more certain. So, you know, yeah, there are always a few doubters, but the latest studies are that, and this is really well documented, solid truth, at least 97% of climate scientists in the world are now of the well-informed opinion that humans have most to do with what's going on haywire with our atmosphere. And in fact, if you chalk it all up to natural causes, which a lot of people try to do, oh, sunspots, oh, cosmic rays, whatever, turns out that would result in a cooling. We would be getting cooler, but instead we're getting substantially warmer, and that's all on us. It's all on humanity. So the business about dissent from some scientists, if people are raising that now, that's way overplayed. So what we need to do is face the problem, the real problem, and instead of all this hand wringing, I mean, I'll go ahead and say here, just get it in the can for the record. I say enough hand-wringing already. It's time for ass kicking. We need to actually do something about this and figure it out in a hurry. So,
is some of the cooling effect, at least in the stratospheric ozone depletion, but yet there's on the lower levels, on the surface. I think we all the scientists would acknowledge that yes, we have a lot of water vapor, we have a lot of CO2, we have a lot of methane, more than ever before, and because of these greenhouse gases, it's definitely going to have an effect on at least on our surface temperatures.
Yeah.
I think that would be pretty well acknowledged.
I do have to point out, you mentioned ozone there. A lot of people get, there are, first of all, ozone is one thing. It's O3. It's a molecule with 3 atoms of oxygen. There's what we call good ozone, which is the stuff up 10 to 15 miles high in the lower stratosphere that protects us from the sun's harsh ultraviolet radiation. Bad ozone, same stuff, but in the wrong place, is the principal ingredient of urban smog. And it is also a greenhouse gas that traps infrared. But a lot of people confuse these two overarching global atmospheric problems. The ozone layer depletion, which we solved. Scientists solved that for humanity. We literally saved humanity's ass on that one back in the mid-90s, and since then by implementing the Montreal Protocol that got rid of the chlorofluorocarbons and the halons, or at least have cut them back. But literally at the opposite end of the spectrum is the problem of global warming, the greenhouse effect, climate change, and that's at the opposite end of the spectrum because ozone shielded us from one kind of invisible, very shortwave solar radiation, the ultraviolet, whereas at the other end of the spectrum, the greenhouse gases, they are named that because they trap long-wave infrared that the Earth is trying to re-radiate out to space, and they're blocking it from getting out to space, so it acts like a blanket, and it's warming us up. By the way, I don't like to use the word warming too much because it sounds nice and warm and fuzzy and good. I call it global overheating. That's what we're really up against here. And some like it hot. If I got a lake to jump into, yeah, I like it hot, but I like it cooler actually, and I'm going to be in big trouble here, I'm afraid, in the coming decades, however many more I have in my life.
Well, so I want to take out. Let's take out that equation of the harm that's happening to the planet and look at alternative energy and solar from the economic standpoint, because I understand the cost of solar has gone down dramatically over the last decade, and they're employing more people than ever. Matter of fact, they employ more than the coal industry that we always hear about, that they're losing jobs. So, how is that going to, we are with the Chamber of Commerce here, and how would that help our economy as far as switching over to alternatives?
It's going to be the salvation of our economy, I predict. Now, I will acknowledge that just right now, the solar industry is undergoing a pretty massive upheaval because of some failures of some big companies. But maybe it's actually going to bring things back to where they should be. You put solar on your house, it shouldn't be some gigantic corporate behemoth that's doing that. It should be a whole lot of little mom and pop shops that do this, and that's what the industry is kind of correcting to get back to. But it's already a huge industry, and it's going to become mega huge because it's the only game in town in terms of doing the right thing. The way we do energy now, which by the way is the largest industry in the world, is by literally harnessing the powers of darkness. Oil, coal, gas, uranium, stuff we have to dig up from underground, making a huge mess every time we do it, starting wars. Also, every time we use this stuff, we make a big mess. Meanwhile, by far, the dominant source of energy on the planet, by a factor of 10,000, is the sky up there, the sun and the wind and all the derived energy sources that come from the sun. And there are many ways to do this, and there's something in this for everybody. Jobs for whatever interest you have. It's if we play our cards right and don't keep blocking solar and renewable energy, what I call clean, limitless, homegrown, democratically distributed energy, we're blocking that. We have been, and now with this new administration in place, they're blocking it just every step of the way.
Right?
Oh yeah, and they're propping up these moribund industries, coal, nuclear, fission power, uranium power, and So hey, I'm a firm believer in the free market. Okay, let's do the free market, not corporate welfare. Let's see, let the best man or woman or business or industry win. And it's going to be solar and renewable energy. Sky power, I call it sky power. And sky power to the people. So
I think
let
that's
a
what got you, we were talking earlier, that's what
Yeah.
got you into this. You love fascination for the sky, right?
Yeah, I've always, astronomy is my, favorite thing. Apparently when I was a kid in the Shenandoah Valley, when I was 3 years old, they found me missing from the dinner table, and they found me half a mile down this dirt road staring at the full moon. It came up, how it looks really big on the horizon? I thought I could walk over to it. Well, anyway, so I take people out and show them stars. In fact, they call me Cosmic Joe. That's kind of my moniker. But speaking of which, by the way, I got to plug this radio show now. It's a national global radio show. It's not about astronomy, but we throw astronomy stuff in there. It's mainly about solutions to big problems of the world. It's called Planet Watch Radio, and it airs live every Sunday Pacific time, 2 to 3 p.m., ksco.com, or if you're in the Santa Cruz region, you can actually get it on the AM dial of your radio, 1080 AM. But they're all archived. All 17 or 18 shows we've done are archived at zbsradio.com. Go there, get the Planet Watch program out of all the offerings of that radio station, and then go to episodes, and there are lots of interview fantastic people, throw in all kinds of puzzles and fun facts and observations and oddball stuff, as well as news and commentary. And we're going big. People want to know, what can we do? Is there a way out of this mess that we keep hearing about? There's gloom and doom enough to go around already, but we're actually offering hope, and I mean real hope, not just idle, fanciful hope, but hope based in reality.
So what I'm hearing you say, though, it's like the technology's there. It's the policies that's kind of in our way. That's the main thing.
What we need to do is what made America great originally. Big investments in R&D, research and development. Basic research where you don't have some applied thing where you got to be positive in advance that it's going to meet your bottom line and everything's going to pencil out. No, you spend big money to play with nature, and you figure out how the world works. And lo and behold, it leads to all kinds of amazing inventions and technologies that benefit humanity.
And we look at the space program. I mean, JFK said when he took his office, in 10 years we're going to be on the moon. And we directed a lot of effort, research, and stuff.
But it takes investment in education for us to switch gears on our technology.
That's the thing too. Education is, that's what we just have to really, again, just go all out on education with the right stuff instead of, there's awful lot of miseducation and disinformation going on out there now.
And connotations, we're talking about oil, for example. Oil has all this embodied energy and years of technology to make this product, and then we think, well, it gets into trouble. It gets in, with wars and all these connotations that are associated with oil that are not necessarily the product that it could be. And if we use it more in a different way, if we have a more of an open approach on it and a broad mind on what we can do with oil, when should we say that, take that for an example, it could open up some possibilities for technology and jobs on using it in a different way?
Yeah, it's, well, first of all, you want to use it a lot more efficiently. If you have to burn it.
Yeah, don't burn it.
Instead of burning it.
What little oil we have left, well, we've got a lot of oil, but maybe half the oil that humanity will ever dig out of the ground is still there, but it's going to be the tougher half to get. It's going to be, it takes energy to get energy, and it's going to be increasingly expensive.
Fracking and all this
and
stuff.
increasingly geopolitically fractious, contentious to get the stuff. But look, oil is great for plastics, pharmaceuticals, things like that. We're just burning it like there's no tomorrow, and maybe there is no tomorrow precisely because we're burning it like there's no tomorrow. But oil, I have to say, you heard it here first from me. I'm saying oil is a wonderful substance. It is amazing. It's bottled up tens of millions of years of solar energy into very small volumes. The sun that's shown on these ancient plants, largely algae, that got converted over eons into oil. it's this marvelous substance. We shouldn't be wasting it. We should be using it very efficiently, very judiciously, while moving. I mean, we can use the oil to get the infrastructure to do solar and wind and biofuels and wave and tidal power and storage, everything from hydrogen to flywheels to advanced batteries, flow batteries that were largely pioneered by NASA.
And that's the same message for water. It's like there's only so much. It's a finite resource. We need to use it as efficiently as possible. It's the same way with oil.
Yeah. Well, going back to all this greenhouse gases, I think everyone would acknowledge that we certainly have a lot more greenhouse gas, and it's increased throughout history, and there's a lot of inertia to it, so it's not going to go anywhere. So this is something that we have to respond to it, and what I'm concerned about is rising sea levels, and the IPCC has stated that, and they're looking at sea levels to rise in 17 inches by the year 2100. Now, is there any credibility to that prediction?
Well, yeah.
do you think?
Yeah, now, a lot of the viewers are going to say, 17 inches, that's nothing. It's like, what, that? In a century or whatever you said? Hey, but look, when you have a land that's sloping like this, a little bit of rise in the vertical direction translates to like miles inland. I'm not saying 17 inches to a mile, but you get my drift here. A little bit of sea level rise leads to tremendous chaos. But actually, you know what? I wanted to get back to something you said on the way to that. You said something about the greenhouse gases are here to stay for a long time. CO2, yes, typically stays in the atmosphere for of order a century. But look, the other whole side of this that nobody's even talking about much, but is going to become, I think, a very exciting and extremely important growth industry, if you will, is getting carbon out of the atmosphere in all kinds of ways. I mean, we know trees and bushes and plants and grasses do that, but we need way more ways to do this economically. Nobody knows how to do this yet, but there's a whole lot of research on it. And I'll just plug a book that, well, I haven't read it yet, but I know the author, Paul Hawken, kind of famous environmental thought leader, author. He started that company, Smith and Hawken, for high upper end gardening tools. I don't know if that company exists anymore. Anyway, he's coming to speak in Santa Cruz next week. But the book is called Drawdown. Part of that is the whole idea of drawing carbon out of the atmosphere and getting it back into the soil. This is the future. I mean, we not only have to completely stop emitting excess carbon into the atmosphere, we have to start getting it out of it. We have to do negative emissions. That's an exciting challenge, and we have to meet that challenge or we're hosed.
And I just want to say I was just at a workshop last week where they were talking about carbon farming for the farmers to be able to take that soil and sequester some of that carbon. So the research is happening now, so it'd be great to expand on that.
Yeah. By the way, can I digress onto something that people can do as individuals? Well,
Absolutely.
Two things I can think of. One is political. There's this wonderful organization called Citizens Climate Lobby. We haven't actually talked about this yet, I don't think, in prep for. Have you guys heard of this yet?
No.
No, I
CCL?
haven't.
Just go to citizensclimatelobby.org. Their whole thing is getting Congress. That's a steep hill to climb there, but especially with the folks that are in there now. But getting them to put, I'm not going to say a tax on carbon, because tax is an evil word, but it's a price on carbon. You pollute, you pay. Very simple principle that even the arch conservative of economic circles, Milton Friedman of University of Chicago, he totally was on board with that. You pollute, you pay. It's called an effluent tax. Well, anyway, with the CCL thing, Citizens Climate Lobby, they want what's called a carbon fee and dividend. When you use carbon, you pay more. When you end up emitting carbon into the atmosphere, you pay more, but you also get a monthly or quarterly check. Everybody gets the same amount every month or every quarter. It's been implemented in a bunch of places already very successfully. And so the idea here is, okay, that helps offset that extra cost to you of using the carbon. And the thing that's very clever is if you use less carbon, if you're greener and cleaner, you make money because you get these regular payments coming in. And hey, if you're really clean, you don't have to pay any extra. But if you choose to be dirty and clean, well, then you pay more.
It's kind of a different approach than the cap and trade type.
Yeah, it's much better. It's much more. It's a market. It's called revenue neutral. It's a market-driven thing, which is why even Republicans are really getting on board with this thing, and it's gaining momentum. The organization has grown by like factor of 10 or more just in the last few years. So keep an eye out for that. The other thing I was going to say, and this gets really controversial now, that everybody can do, I will just submit that, I mean, look, I confess, I love bacon, I love burgers, but I don't eat them all the time, okay? I try to be sparing, and more...
You didn't eat that over at the bowling alley earlier today.
No, I ate some fish, which was pretty good. But anyway, look, diet, how people eat has a tremendous impact on the environment, especially when you consider that there are 7 billion people on the planet. And I talk to people, very well educated, very high authority people who say,
Right.
it's the pinnacle of arrogance to assume that humans can have any influence on the environment. And my answer to that is, you know what, dude, you just don't know what 7 billion is. It would take you your whole life to count to 1 billion. And I submit that that's probably news to a lot of the so-called conservatives out there. You got to do the math. Oh, okay, 1 billion seconds is, I don't know, 35 years, but most of those numbers take longer than 1 second to say, okay?
35 years.
Take you a lifetime just to count to
Yeah.
1 billion.
Right.
We got 7 of those, 7.5 or whatever now on the earth, and we all eat. And if it's meat, it's extremely impactful on the environment. So you can do a lot of good, and you have control over that. There's no command and control regulation, you know.
So we don't have to go
I'm glad-
vegan, just kind of cut
Yeah, I'm
back.
not saying cold turkey become a vegan.
Right.
You know, I've done that, and actually it wasn't half bad. But I mean, I kind of backslipped a little bit, as I've just admitted. But I'm definitely eating a lot less than what my mom served me back when I was
see.
growing up in
I'm
Virginia.
glad, well, I'm really glad you mentioned that because, as we know, I think we could all admit, I guess is the right word, that climate change is a reality. And a lot of the folks here that are probably watching our show is wondering what can we do, and can I make a difference individually? And I think what you just said is we all can make a difference, and what we do really has significance, even though a simple thing is changing your diet and recycling your garbage. All that really is
Conserving
important.
water, it's what we do collectively that matters.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just getting with the program, with being smart about the way the world works, and so, well, all right. One thing we need to know is I have no idea whether we got 2 minutes left or 20 minutes left. I don't think it's 20 minutes.
We're doing
But,
fine.
Right. We're doing okay.
This is our little break
Right.
here.
Yeah. Okay.
So I got lots more I could say about whatever, but need you guys to ask me some
I think
more questions.
we have 5 minutes.
5 minutes. All right, almost done.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that was a good way to end the show. Is what we all can do, and all
Sure.
what we do really has meaning and significance. Each individual, from our efforts on dealing with climate change and how to responding to it. But it's nice to know that we can do it also collectively with our decision makers and our legislation, from either from our local level or from the state level and the federal level, if we all work hand in
And I
hand on
want
this.
Americans have always been so innovative, and I want us to keep that edge. And by having this policy we have in place now, there's going to be somebody else in the world that comes up with some of these innovations and stuff. And this is good for the economy, for God's
Right.
sake. I mean, take out the controversy, if there's any controversy at all about the climate at all. Yeah.
In fact, that's my consolation or my encouragement is that, look, if the U.S., executive and legislative branches, all 3 branches don't get with it and get with the program on how to do it right, the rest of the world is going to drag us kicking and screaming into doing the right thing economically and environmentally. It's just in the cards of the way nature works. And one other thing I was going to say about what everybody can do out there is learn everything you can about this. Now, of course, you say, well, a lot of people just, they see what they want to see. They read what they want to read, and that's it. But try to be open-minded. I mean, I actually inflict, 3 hours of Rush Limbaugh on myself every day, just to understand what in the world is going on in people's heads, what they're thinking, and I also watch the progressives like Tom Hartman and Amy Goodman, and who are reporters of truth and virtue. And anyway, I encourage anybody who disagrees with what I just said and thinks that Rush is truth and virtue and those guys are full of baloney, I defy you. Okay, prove it. But anyway, I mean, I like going to the other side in an argument. I got relatives back east who are, just staunchly against what I represent, but we like each other, we get along, and developing relationships with people who disagree with you and trying to figure out where your common ground is and then growing that common ground. That's super important.
That's sorely
a people
missing.
skill.
That's sorely
and
missing.
Scientists, maybe, there are some good scientists who are good people, and we need more of that. When I was at Oberlin College, I actually majored in physics and government. Kind of a weird combination, but the idea was, to try to bring together, science and society and policy. And I mean, that ozone work that I did at NASA Ames is a great illustration of that. It was technical stuff, a multi-billion-dollar industry with all kinds of chemistry and everything else involved, but also an international environmental agreement. It was a major triumph of international policy. So we got to do the same thing with this climate thing, and gung-ho on getting carbon out of the atmosphere and doing no or low carbon technologies. And this is how we will make it.
Well, Joe, I really appreciate you coming on the show and all your experience. I know there was a lot of things that you've done, research. You went to the North Pole, I know, and done some things up there with.
Just a fun fact for you: when you're at the North Pole, you look straight up at night, and what do you see? The North Star, straight overhead. They call it the North Star for a reason.
Yeah, I'd like to go stargazing with you one of these days too in Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
Right, that'd be fun.
Get you out to Fremont too.
Yeah. And to share your knowledge with us today, and trying to be as good stewards of the environment, dealing with climate change, setting a good example, doing what we can. I think it would all make a difference, and hopefully, collectively, and with the fusion of what we can do and what the legislative bodies can do, and the education and the investment, I think that
we got to. It's the future.
It serves hope for the future.
Yeah, I like the color of your shirt there, Dave. I don't know if it shows up on the camera, but it's green.
Well, I actually had to go home and change my shirt. They said I couldn't wear black, and I wore a black shirt earlier today.
Just a bit of floating head over here.
And once you know it, by the luck of the Irish, there it was, a green shirt right there, ready to wear. And I said, yes, green is a good color to wear on this show.
Very nice.
And so I want to thank you for watching Going Green today, and I'd like to get Joe back on the show. I know there's a lot of things more that we could talk about, for sure.
Yeah, stay tuned.
And
keep an eye on the sky.
And
sky power to the people.
Sky power, and your radio show again on 1080 Joe?
AM, and it airs live every Sunday 2 to 3 Pacific time, and it's called Planet Watch Radio, and they're all archived at ZBS, like Zebra Boy Sam, zbsradio.com. You go to Planet Watch and then just click on episodes and just start poking around, and get a hold of me, J. Jordan at sky-power.org. That's JJORDAN at sky dash, like a minus sign, power, like power to the people.org. Like to hear from you, see what you thought of this. Tell me if you hated it and if you completely disagreed. I love that. I thrive on negative feedback.
Okay.
So,
all right, Joe. Well, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on
Thank you, everyone.
yeah, thank you.